Well, hello everyone. It's Sibyl Star, and I am here to give the astrology forecast for the coming week. And so we start the week off with the Scorpio new moon. So I'm going to share that chart with you. Okay. All right. All right. So here is the chart. And let's see here. Move myself over here. There we go. Okay. All right. So anyway, we have the sun and the moon here. Oh, first of all, the Scorpio new moon occurs on November 13th, 1:27 a.m. Pacific time. And so here is the chart of the new moon. We've got the sun and the moon in Scorpio, tightly conjunct Mars. Okay. And but it is opposite Uranus, but it's also conjunct Ceres up here, and Ceres is going to play a big role this week because the sun, the moon, and Mars are going to become very tightly conjunct with Ceres. All right, and they are trine Neptune here in Pisces. Okay, all right, so anyway, let us go back and talk about what all of this actually means. All right, so let's see here. Kind of got a situation going on here. Anyway, anyway, all right. So the new moon is, so anyway, we have 5 planets in Scorpio right now. The sun is traveling this week from 21 to 27 degrees of Scorpio. And so what is the energy of Scorpio? So what is the energy of Scorpio? What does that actually mean? So anyway, one of the meanings to me is about being an alchemist. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, and I feel like both of them are very much about the alchemical process. It is about transmuting lead into gold, and that was, for the ancient Hermeticists and, those that were philosophers. They call it the philosopher's stone is the other thing. They are, it is about transmuting our darkness into light. It's about aligning with our higher self, the essence of who we are. So it is actually a purification process to get down to that core essence of who we are. And in Scorpio, it really takes place in the emotional body, because the emotional body is where so much of our energy is stored, is where our unconscious. Scorpio is about making the unconscious conscious. That's another way of looking at bringing light into our darkness. And we know that when in the presence of light, there is no darkness. Okay, if you turn on one light, it's no longer dark. And, that's really important to remember. And so, of course, it is, a fire and water, and the fire turns up a fire brings a crisis and turns the heat up, and then it boils the water. And so that signifies to me, like I said, it boils, and it boils the water while it purifies the water. Okay, so it is a purification process that is stripping us down to our core. Scorpio brings with it a time of deep excavation, a rotor-rooter of the emotional body might be a way to look at that. Okay, but the key is that you've got to feel it to heal it. As this rotor-rooter is, going down our emotional bodies, or your emotional body, you got to feel it to release it, that there's energies, old repressed emotions that and the thing is, when we don't express our emotions, they stay in our body, they don't go away, and they actually cause illness. So, there's almost always a psycho-spiritual component to any illness. And so anyway, so that's one of the reasons they call Scorpio one of the great healers of the zodiac, because it really helps us heal as we release this old dead material. It's like the snake shedding its skin. If the snake didn't shed its skin, it would die. And Pluto says evolve or die, grow or die. Okay. And it's important to remember that, with Scorpio too, it says you got to feel it to heal it. And we only there's scientific studies have shown that we actually only feel an emotion for about 90 seconds. After that, if there's any suffering, it is because of the story that we are telling ourselves. Okay. And so, it's so important to, release the old stories, that we are holding. And Scorpio, is known for holding a grudge, holding on to it. And they say actually our memories are not necessarily what happened, but they are more of how whatever happened made us feel. That is why you can have, like, many people have the same experience, and every one of them, or put it this way, will have the same event happen, but they will experience it differently due to their perception, their perspective in the world, and how it impacts their emotional body. All right. And so, of course, the key is not only to, um, uh, the key is not only to feel your emotions, but, I have this image here behind me, of the scorpionic phoenix, because, they say that Scorpio comes in like the scorpion, knows how to attack, um, stings. It knows how to sting. It knows kind of like to go for the jugular. But the key is to ultimately start to begin the process of transforming by becoming the eagle. And that, to me, some of that says having the courage, to look at our unconscious patterns so that we can choose a different response, and then rising like the phoenix from the ashes, ultimately completely transformed. And to me, that is through the process of forgiveness. Okay. Because when we let go and forgive ourselves and others, we are completely transformed and free from the old pain. Pluto and Scorpio transmute old traumas and hurts into self-empowerment. Okay. All right. Now, Mars is conjunct this new moon, as we saw, tightly conjunct, and it's going to be traveling at 22 to 27 degrees of Scorpio all week. And Scorpio, Mars is traveling pretty much in close alignment with the sun for a while. So we're really looking, even when it moves into Sagittarius, they're traveling close together. And Mars is what's called the handmaiden of the sun. The sun says, I want this. Mars says, I'm going to get this for you. Okay. And of course, the key is to align our Mars with our higher self, not our ego self, because our ego self is often, working from an unconscious place. The unconscious ego says, I want this, but it may not be in one's highest good. And so that's why disappointment is one of the major teachings of Mars in Scorpio, is how to align your will with your higher self, and to recognize that when you don't get something you want, it's because it probably was not in your highest good. Okay. All right. But anyway, it's a very volatile energy. Mars is always a catalyst. It's kind of like I've said before, adding cayenne pepper to your soup, it makes it pop. And so things are popping. Just maybe things that have been kind of below the surface, well, they're now coming to the surface. It's time. And this Scorpio new moon is really bringing them up to the surface so that they can be dealt with. Like I might say, things are popping in your life. Okay. And we might find ourselves feeling irritable, triggered, competitive, unsettled, because the truth of it is our triggers are at the surface right now. Whatever they are. And I'm going to say, I'm just kind of really, as I'm talking to people, many people say they're feeling irritable. Their anger is right up on the surface because, of course, Mars is associated with anger. And Mars is that place. One, like I said, Mars is the handmaiden of the ego. It says, this is what I want. And the thing is, You might be irritable because you're not getting what you wanted or how you think things should be, but it is also about where we may need to say no, where we may need to set a boundary. And whatever it is, there's, anger is actually an expression of fear on some level. Okay. I believe pretty much all of the lower frequency vibrational emotions are actually different expressions of fear. And I also want to point out that anger is part of the grieving process. And Scorpio brings up our losses. Scorpio and Pluto both, they bring up our losses. And maybe during this time, what's coming up is we're grieving over things changing. They're not the way they used to be. Our lives are not the way they used to be. And so as well as just simply, grief from other losses in our life that we have not grieved yet. And Mars, it brings up the anger phase, and it's one of the 5 phases of grief. Let me see if I can remember them. Well, I can't, but anyway, but I think it's like the 3rd phase there. I know there's like, there's denial, there's, what is it? I know there's denial, there's anger, there's bargaining, and there's final acceptance. And there's another phase in there. I can't remember what it is, but often they're kind of mixed together. But anger is part of the grieving process. Okay, but it's also so it is real. The thing is that anger, bitterness, resentment, and unforgiveness will eat you up. And to recognize that there can be a potential to project our anger onto someone else, say, they made me angry. The truth of it is that anger is living in you, or whatever the emotion is, that anger, that grief, that sadness. The thing is that if you hold on to it, it can eventually make you bitter and eat you up inside, because it does not affect the other person. Okay, you are the one that suffers. And as I said, forgiveness is the key to transformation here. And forgiveness is not for you, it is for them. And and it is our job, like I said, we must express our emotions, but when anger comes up, it's important to find a way to express it that is not destructive to you or to someone else. And a good way is always physical activity, whether it's gardening, whether it's running, whatever it is. When it shows up, get out and use your body, because it will really allow that anger to be transformed into self-empowerment, because that's what is lying underneath. That is a place where we're feeling disempowered, held back, not getting what we want. And like I said, sometimes it's because it's not in our highest good. But sometimes it is because, we're making choices that are not in our highest good. So we're kind of being guided to make a different choice. Okay. All right. And to remember that it is not our anger, but our love that will heal the world. All right. And I love this quote. It's been going around on Facebook. It comes around every so often, but I really like it. And it really tells us that, this is a collective process. This isn't, we're each a part of it, but it is a collective healing process, because it is really preparing us for the future to be able to hold more light, to get rid of our baggage. But it's happening everywhere. It's happening, like I said, we each have a piece of it, but together it is a collective process. And so it says it takes a tremendous amount of emotional and spiritual maturity to witness in full force the collective shadow and still keep your heart open. And that last piece is really the most important. The collective shadow is up, but how do you move through it, keeping your heart open, not shutting down and becoming bitter and living in anger that is just so not healthy? Okay. How do you move through that with your heart open? That's the key. That's the challenge. All right. Now, of course, this new moon is opposite Uranus. We saw that. Uranus in Taurus at 22 degrees. And, Uranus is like lightning. It strikes sudden and swift. As they say, when Uranus comes around, expect the unexpected, because things can change on a dime. Just because they're one way now, doesn't mean they're always going to be this way. Things can absolutely change. But of course, the key is always our resistance to change, because we have a desire for change, but a fear of the unknown. Okay. Now, opposite Mars, Mars, like I said, makes everything happen. And it's a catalyst. So things happen with Mars and Uranus. Unexpected things may happen. So it's super important to be aware of your emotions, because Mars is in Scorpio, and so it's really our emotions are just in any unconscious material may come to light. And so it's better to deal with your anger, or with your grief, your sadness, whatever it is you're dealing with, in a more conscious way, so that it doesn't pop out unconsciously, because this Mars Uranus opposition could make that happen. And like I said, things could change on a dime, and if we're not aware of these underlying emotions, something, let's just say, we'll just go back to anger, because something like road rage, and to just kind of lose our stuff and do something very destructive. Okay. Or things, but it's also energy that's just really difficult to manage. So accidents can happen. It's really important to just simply be aware of any impatience, any irritability, any kind of feelings like that, and how they can impact you to do something that you wouldn't normally do. Okay. And something that could really be hurtful to someone else or yourself. So you just be really aware of this energy. And I'm going to say this, this week, it's still pretty strong, but it's also about breakthrough. I mean, it's like this underlying chaos and turmoil, because Uranus brings breakthrough. It shatters. It's like an earthquake. Pluto and Scorpio are more volcanic. They kind of come up from the underground and erupt. Whereas Uranus, especially in Taurus, is more like earthquakes. It's like really getting shaken to let these old patterns leave, let them shatter. Okay. And of course, the true alchemy is your response to situations, because a lot of it we're not going to be able to control. Um, but it is your reaction to a situation that literally has the power to change the situation itself. It's kind of like the energy comes up, how you respond to it, because Taurus says to stay calm. It's very much about finding that place of inner calmness, the tree who's, we're in the storm and we're getting shook, but how to hold that center. And that center is your psychic, your psycho-spiritual center, your connection to spirit, your unshakable faith in the trust that what is happening and what is unfolding is in our highest good, because things are changing. We are leaving the world of the known and moving into unknown territory. Okay. All right. So anyway, all right. And I just want to, and also, as I said, Uranus has the power to free us when we are willing to allow the change and not resist the change. Okay, as it's coming through, to flow with the changes that are happening, it actually will free us from our chains. Okay, and of course, the alchemy of Scorpio is about shifting old patterns of behavior that no longer serve us, the transform anger into power and strength, transmute grief into deep connection with self and other. Let's see, turn fear into insight and understanding, find compassion, empathy, and acceptance. And Uranus and Taurus is also about an embodied spirituality. And as we integrate our shadow, it allows for cellular upgrades and the activation of our light bodies. Okay. All right. And then we have this other beautiful aspect, which is the Sun, Mars. Let's see, Sun, Mars, Ceres, and Scorpio, trine Neptune, and they're all like in the 20 degrees. And I'm saying this is going on all week. It's there in the new moon, but it's really happening all week long. And of course, Ceres in Scorpio, there's going to be an exact conjunction of the Sun and Mars to Ceres. And Ceres is one of the faces of the Great Mother. Um, a Ceres Demeter from ancient Greek, and one of her Greece, and she was the goddess of agriculture. She is about how we feed and nurture ourselves. She is the nurturing aspect of the Great Mother, one of the nurturing aspects. But she's about cycles, the cycles of life, death, transformation, and rebirth. She has to do with the seasons, okay, of knowing when to let go and when it is time for new birth. And she's also can be the dark mother here in Scorpio, okay. And the dark mother is a source of great power and transformation. She represents the intense and raw creative force of the universe and the ability to bring forth new life from the ashes of the old, here, just like the phoenix. Okay. And in some traditions, the Dark Mother is seen as a fierce protector and guide. In these cases, she helps us to navigate the challenges of life and offers wisdom and strength to cover adversity. Well, we're in these times, there is adversity in the field. Things aren't easy because we are shifting a paradigm, and the Great Mother is letting us understand about what to let go of and where there is the potential for new growth, new birth, and how to find our inner strength and wisdom during these very challenging times. And of course, being trine Neptune, she reminds us that we are never alone, that we are part of something greater than ourselves, and that we can always ask for help because we are never alone. We're just not making this journey alone. And there was someone, and I shared this in my new moon video, and I'm going to share a little bit of it again. There was someone who had a download or a transmission from some blue light beings that she works with. And they told her that the blue light was going to be shining, was going to be really prevalent on certain days, November 4th, 18th, and 23rd, those Saturdays. And so I went out and did my own meditation around this because I certainly felt the blue light, and I saw the blue white light of the Divine Mother. And she came in and she said that, that this is her light and that she is always with us, and that this is the light of love, of the frequency of love of the Divine Mother, and that she is holding us in these times of great transition, holding all of humanity, all of life, Mother Gaia and all her children, and that she is holding us during these times. And what she's bringing with her is divine love. She is the unconditional love of the universe, the divine love, and that comes in the form of compassion. Remembering that we are all one and having love and compassion for all beings. Okay. And it's about living from the heart, and which is actually a 5D reality. Okay. And so, outwardly we see chaos, but truly inwardly a new world is stirring. I mean, this is part of the cycle. I can feel it. Can you? I know it is true. There is light at the end of the tunnel that we are passing through, and we will feel it more in December, when the Sagittarius new moon will be conjunct the galactic center and be going over the galactic center actually itself a few days later. I feel like it is so much about having faith in the future as we move into these higher frequency dimensions, and as we are having these purification processes so that we can hold more of this high frequency light coming in. We are, our whole solar system has moved into a higher frequency photon belt, and the light is coming in all the time. And as the galactic center, they say, is connected to the great central sun, the source of all creation. Okay. All right. We also have Venus in Libra, and Venus moved into Libra last week. Venus in Libra is very much about inner peace and harmony, is seeking balance. Venus in Libra is very empathetic. We often find counselors having this signature because Venus and Libra both can see both sides of a situation, and not take sides, which we certainly need right now. She brings in mediation and diplomacy, and there may be a focus on our relationships now with Venus and Libra. Mercury in Sagittarius. Mercury, of course, is God of the mind. When Mercury's in Sagittarius, he's more optimistic. It's where our faith increases. He seeks meaning. He looks for, he sees the big picture. So he allows us to connect the dots and create a vision. And Mercury in Sagittarius can be very humorous, reminds us that laughter is the best medicine. You know, even if it's a dark humor, whatever it is that allows us to laugh, really can change our whole perspective. And most important is to be able to laugh at ourselves, to not take ourselves so seriously. All right. And Mercury in Sagittarius is known for what is called open mouth, insert foot syndrome, um, which we know what that means. And I've certainly done that. And, you know, the truth is sometimes things just need to be said. And other times we certainly could use a little more diplomacy and tact as we're speaking. All right. So what is the moon doing this week? All right. So on Monday, of course, we have the new moon in Scorpio. And on Tuesday, the moon moves into Sagittarius. So it's a little lighter energy. It's more optimistic, more upbeat. Maybe start getting a sense of feeling the light that is coming in as we're releasing the old darkness from our system. And you know, so once again, spontaneity is the key. Thursday and Friday, the moon is in Capricorn. And so in Capricorn, of course, is much more serious. We find we might have a need for structure, planning ahead, whereas Sagittarius was very, let's wing it, play it by ear, let's be spontaneous. Capricorn says, well, you know, maybe that wasn't such a good idea. Maybe we need to do a little better planning here. All right. And of course, it's conjunct Pluto on Friday. And so, of course, requires some emotional maturity, ability to look reality in the eye, and emotional honesty with ourselves and others. The weekend, things pick up a little bit because the moon moves into Aquarius. And so try something new, do something different. You know, gather with friends and, you know, share ideas, brainstorming goals for the future. You know, this is a great time to gather and really, you know, share our ideas and being open to new ideas, new perspectives, and different ways of viewing the world. You know, as they say, you know, we cannot heal the world we are in with the same mindset that we use to create it. And so it's about allowing some new ideas, new ways of being, some new perspectives. All righty. Well, wishing you all a wonderful week. That's what I see for this week. And if you're interested in a reading, please look in the description box below. And just wishing you all a wonderful week. Many blessings to all, and namaste.